Paige DeSorbo is on a career high in 2025. Her podcast consistently ranks as #1 in the charts, and she and her co-star Hannah Berner just completed their countrywide tour. Plus, Paige is still the most entertaining person on the hit Bravo reality series Summer House. Paige has also broken into the world of fashion, taking her far from her bedbug lifestyle as she hosted the Vanity Fair Oscar party red carpet, appeared on The Today Show, and has been seated in the front row at fashion shows. Her recent career success didn't come without upheavals in Paige's life. In September 2024, Paige revealed on her podcast that she had experienced a panic attack before hitting the stage at a Giggly Squad show. Now that she and Southern Charm star Craig Conover have broken up, Paige has revealed further details about her mental health, and it is clear that her thoughts about Craig's effect on her anxiety differ greatly from the way he chose to portray it in the media last fall. What Paige has said about her mental health. On the Summer House after show, Paige mentioned that Craig was only superficially supportive of her career and was constantly pressuring her to put him first, which contributed to the decline in her mental health last fall. She shared the story of a time when she was on tour and Craig asked her to watch a documentary about the rock band Abia and how touring ruined their careers and personal lives. This passive-aggressive attempt to demonstrate to Paige that she should learn a lesson through viewing this documentary was a part of the behavior that caused her to break down last fall. She noted it never even occurred to Craig that it was possible he was contributing to her panic attacks, just as he failed to realize he was causing her anxiety by feuding with her Summer House co-star Kyle Cook in Season 9. Paige also observed that looking back now, without the rose-colored glasses of trying to make the relationship work, she realized that she had tolerated too much with Craig. Paige has always shown incredible loyalty and will defend her friendships the same way that she stood up for Craig in their relationship. But this intense Italian-American sense of allegiance wasn't serving her romantically any longer. Both Summer House and Southern Charm have proved with their current seasons that Paige had already begun to check out mentally in her relationship prior to the breakup, and for good reason. Craig's constant need to push Paige to settle down and prioritize him above her career is ultimately the wedge that drove them apart. Craig was the reason for Paige's stress. In September 2024, when Conover was giving interviews about DeSorbo's recent panic attack, his attempt to place himself at the center of that narrative was consistent with his behavior in their relationship overall. It comes across as self-absorbed to speak so confidently in the press about his own role in helping to calm Paige down, just days after she revealed the mental health update on her podcast, especially since he seemed to be completely clueless that he was the cause of her anxiety. Craig's observation that the attacks came out of nowhere to briefing on Bravo demonstrated how out of touch the Southern Charm star was about his own role in causing his girlfriend's discomfort. Conover attempted to use the media to frame himself as Paige's knight in shining armor, when he was actually the villain trying to keep her trapped in a tower, or rather, a renovated home in Charleston with a great backyard. Being passive-aggressive and seeking constant reassurance from Paige that she would settle down with him on his timeline was the driving force behind her anxiety last fall and the root of their breakup. Craig tried to pin Paige down to ensure that he would become the center of her world, that she would pump the brakes in her career to prioritize becoming a wife and mother, and it all reeks of patriarchy and privilege. If a submissive Southern belle is what Craig is after, he's sure to find one closer to home. Paige has always been consistent in her message that she wants to live in New York, that she wants to take advantage of her platform while she is young and building a giggly empire, and that pressure from a man to settle down is nowhere on her 2025 mood board. The highs and lows of Paige DeSorbo's 2025 career, a journey of strength and self-discovery. Paige DeSorbo was living the dream, or at least, that's what it looked like to anyone on the outside looking in. As 2025 unfolded, she was riding a wave of success that most people only fantasize about. Her podcast, Giggly Squad, with co-host and best friend Hannah Berner, had rocketed to the top of the charts, holding steady at #1 for weeks on end. Their nationwide tour, which had sold out every single venue, was a resounding success. But it wasn't just the podcast that had her on top. Paige was also a beloved star of the hit Bravo series Summer House, where she brought her unique brand of humor, authenticity, and relatability to the screen. She was the life of the party, the one everyone wanted to hang out with, the one with all the jokes, and everyone knew it. Beyond her TV and podcast stardom, Paige was breaking into the world of fashion. From being seated front row at major fashion shows to landing hosting gigs like the Vanity Fair Oscar Party red carpet, Paige had successfully transitioned from reality TV darling to influencer extraordinaire. Her presence on the Today Show only solidified her place in the mainstream media. She was the definition of a multi-hyphenate: influencer, podcaster, fashionista, and star. And her social media was a masterclass in how to build a brand. But success and fame, as Paige had come to learn, came with their own set of challenges. Beneath the glittering exterior, the mental and emotional toll of balancing her career with personal life was taking its toll. And the biggest challenge she faced, perhaps, was the one that came from the relationship she had just left behind: her breakup with Southern Charm star Craig Conover. The unseen struggles. Paige had always been someone who valued loyalty. She was the friend who would go to bat for you, the person you could count on to back you up when times were tough. But that fierce loyalty, she now realized, had kept her in a relationship that was doing her more harm than good. The relationship with Craig, which had once seemed so promising, had taken a toll on Paige's mental health. It wasn't that Craig wasn't supportive in his own way, he was. But the support he offered was superficial and conditional. When Paige was embarking on her career highs, Craig's idea of support often came with strings attached. In September 2024, during an episode of Summer House's after show, Paige opened up about her struggles. She had a panic attack before a Giggly Squad live show, and in the midst of that chaos, her then-boyfriend, Craig, had shown his true colors. She shared a deeply personal story about how, while on tour, Craig had asked her to watch a documentary about ABGA. The documentary, he explained, chronicled how their careers and relationships were destroyed by the pressures of constant touring. It was Craig's passive-aggressive attempt to demonstrate to Paige the dangers of her career trajectory, subtly pushing her to slow down, to focus on him, to prioritize their relationship. He never once considered that his own demands, his insistence on being the center of her world, might be contributing to her anxiety. Paige's panic attacks, she revealed, were a direct result of the pressure Craig had put on her to settle down, to focus on the future, to start thinking about marriage and children. To him, her thriving career was a threat. To Paige, it was everything. It wasn't even a discussion, Paige explained during an emotional podcast episode. It wasn't like we talked about it and came to an understanding. It was more like, I'm going to keep hinting at this, and if you don't get it, I'll make you get it. And I was so caught up in trying to make it work with him that I didn't see it was breaking me down. The pressure to settle down, Craig's constant need for reassurance, and his desire for Paige to prioritize their future over her blossoming career were the driving forces behind the deterioration of their relationship. He wasn't the type to openly communicate or share his insecurities. Instead, he used manipulation and subtle control tactics, which Paige eventually saw for what they were. Craig's tendency to create drama, like his ongoing feud with Summer House co-star Kyle Cook, only exacerbated Paige's anxiety. Their relationship had been a study in contrasts from the start. Paige was a New York City girl with big dreams and an even bigger personality. Craig, on the other hand, was a Southern boy with a more traditional view of relationships. He wanted the house in Charleston, the picket fence, and the predictable, slow-paced life. Paige wanted to conquer the world on her own terms, to chase every opportunity, to stay in the fast lane as long as she could. But Craig couldn't understand that. He wanted her to fit into a mold that wasn't hers to fill. And so, as the months passed, Paige began to withdraw emotionally. She couldn't deny it anymore. The anxiety she had been feeling wasn't random. It wasn't just the pressure of her career, it was the constant tug-of-war between her independence and the relationship she had tried so hard to make work.